So everyone, let's get to our major topic of tonight. The Joint National Assembly Committee on INEC has resolved to consider the budget for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, before it is sent to the appropriations committees of both chambers. A resolution was reached after a second meeting between the committee and the electoral body, INEC, with the Minister of Budget and National Planning and a senior special assistant to the President on National Assembly matters in attendance. The appropriations committees are expected to scrutinize and decide the source of funding for INEC's budget.
Almighty God, we would have no objection whatsoever to your appropriating the full amount, 189 billion, so that you don't have to now reconsider this for the 2019 budget. That would mean that we would not include the 45 billion in the 2019 budget, which we are preparing now.
The issue is how much of it is coming out of supplementary appropriation in 2018 and how much of it is going to be taken in 2019. But this is not a matter for INEC. How the money is sourced is a matter between the National Assembly and the Executive.
We will decide which one we want to use. Are we going to go by 143 or we're going to go by 189? It is our prerogative as a committee to decide that.
Now, what is the implication of the National Assembly not reconvening? What are the implications of the delay in this budget passage for the election? The election is just less than 5 months away. So let's get to it, everyone. Joining us from our Abuja studio is the Director of Voter Education and Publicity at INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osazi Uzi, and from Akure is the National Coordinator of Election Monitor, Mr. Abiodun Ajijola. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on the program today. Let's begin with a conversation with you, Mr. Ajijola. As it stands right now, you have come out to say there are implications of the delay in the passage of the budget, and you've highlighted a few things that you say are your fears. What are your major fears exactly?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. As you know that the election timetable has been out for some time, and as you know, I think yesterday marks 6 months to the commencement of the presidential election, or something like to about 6 months from yesterday. And what this means is that there are certain things that INEC has to put in place in order to ensure that it can deliver on the elections properly and to the satisfaction of Nigerians. The little challenge that some of us are, or the issue that some of us are worried about, is that the National Assembly is the only body that can pass this budget to enable the Commission to move forward with the activities it has to carry out before the elections. As it is right now, the National Assembly is on recess, as you know, but of course, as you have also reported, for the past 2 days, the Senate Committee on INEC and the House Committee on Electoral Matters have been meeting in order to review the budget and look at it deeper. But what we are saying is that we want to encourage an urgency in the conclusion of this activity and in the passage of the budget, because if it is delayed, it will have effects on the ability of INEC to conduct it effectively, because it will put a lot of pressure on the Commission. If, for example, we take the date at which NAS is to resume, which is the 25th of September 2018, if, for example, it is not reconvened until that time, which is about 6 weeks from now, that's going to affect certain things that the Commission needs to put in place before the elections. And you must remember that the elections are slated for the 16th of February and the 2nd of March. And there is a last date at which elections can be conducted by law, both constitutional and electoral, which is the 28th of April, because you have May 29 being the handing over day. And of course, there are dates you cannot conduct the national elections with the state elections. So National Assembly, Presidential, State House of Assembly, governorship might be on 2 days, and you need at least a 2-week interval. So we're even saying that even if you consider any issues before the 14th of April, that you can't do anything after that. So if we are going on recess until the 25th of September, which is 6 weeks' time, it means that there are certain things the Commission needs to put in place that it cannot do until that time. And of course, it's not the day the NAS reconvenes on the 25th that this would be attended to. So what we are saying is that this should be treated with urgency, and irrespective of the political issues surrounding it, I want us to overlook the politics and embrace the national interest.
You're talking about, Ms. Ajola, in one of your releases, you talked about a possibility of a constitutional crisis should this budget further be delayed for passage.
Yeah, so what is back to what I said earlier. So, for example, if there's bipartisan bickering and there are issues that will prevent the National Assembly reconvening, for example, I don't know why it's so difficult for the National Assembly to give a date that it will reconvene. I think this is a good thing. It will show and, it will free tensions there. I think for us, our belief is that if the delay is continued to a point where it becomes maybe by the time they resume in September, and of course, if they resume on the 25th, that doesn't mean it's going to be passed on the 25th. What if it goes into October? That might force the Electoral Commission, it might affect its ability to prepare effectively. And if it has to do that, it might not allow the Commission to achieve its objectives within the current time period. And there is a legal time period by which the Commission cannot exceed in terms of conducting the election.
All right, Ms. Ajola, let's quickly bring in Mr. Osazu-Uzi here quickly. Mr. Osazu-Uzi, luckily, is a lawyer also, and he works with INEC. With what we were seeing and your presentation, the Commission's presentation to the National Assembly, do you envisage any further delay?
Well, quite honestly, I don't think there will be much delay. I think the distinguished senators and honorable members of the House were quite clear that they were being patriotic and they were committed to ensuring that INEC gets all it needs for the conduct of credible elections. They were quite emphatic about that, and all who spoke re-emphasized that point. So I think we're all on the same page with the National Assembly, INEC, and the presidency seem to be on the same page in this regard, that INEC needs money and needs these funds promptly. I think at least today's meeting was quite a good meeting. It sorted out whatever creases there were to be sorted out, and I think to emphasize the point that everything that needs to be done to support INEC and to properly consider its budget and pass the budget will be done. That was emphasized.
Mr. Uzi, should the budget be delayed, the passage for the 2019 elections budget be delayed till, say, end of October, would there be any form of a crisis in the preparations for the election?
Well, an essential part of credible election is that adequate funds are provided, and they are provided as when needed. Some of the funds we need pretty soon. Others, for example, the payment of honoraria of staff who work with elections can come a little bit later. Today we issued a notice of the election that formally kickstarts the election period, formally. From tomorrow, the political parties are free to conduct their primaries. We need funds to monitor those primaries. So those kind of funds are immediately needed. So we envisage that all funds will quite adequately and promptly be released. It will cause a bit of a problem for us, a bit of a challenge, if funds are not appropriated and if they're not released on time. But the different things we need money for. Procurement issues take a long gestation period. So all the procurements we have to undertake, we'll need some funds for that, because the procurement laws require you to have these funds in your accounts, in your budget, appropriated before you even go to the stage of actual award of a contract. So yes, we need these things. And some of these things we need are not available off the shelf, and the kind of quantities we need, you have to go to original equipment manufacturers, you have to place orders according to your specification and customize to INEC's needs. So these funds have to be in our coffers before all that is done according to the procurement law.